Green New Deal and the socialists who created it. We're fed up with the attacks on our fossil fuel and energy industries. We're fed up with an open border. We're fed up with human trafficking. We're fed up with fentanyl flooding our country. And we're fed up with illegal immigration. We're fed up with critical race theory. We're fed up with boys competing in girls' sports. We're fed up with We're fed up with the liberal media, Twitter, Facebook, Google, and YouTube for blocking conservative speech. We're fed up with our government and universities censoring conservative thought, canceling debate, and rewriting history. We're fed up with the corruption in the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, the CIA, the NSA, and the Poison Court. We're fed up with mask mandates, vaccine mandates, the CDC, the NIH, the WHO, and the misinformation campaign surrounding COVID-19. And we're fed up with Anthony Fauci. We're fed up with the politicians and the elitists in D.C. who are getting rich while the middle class falls further behind every year. We're fed up with Joe Biden, with Nancy Pelosi. We're fed up with the January 6th Commission and those people who think that they can gaslight us. And we're fed up with Liz Cheney. Everyone on notice. As of November 8th, we're taking our country back.
Good morning, 511 family, fellow patriots. Awesome to be here with you as always. Guys, we have an awesome show planned for you guys today, and I'm waiting for, yep, there we go. So guys, thank you for being here as always with us. But I do have to say that we are fed up. We're fed up with the lies and the manipulation, the destruction being pushed by the left and being forced into our lives, our daily lives, our children's lives, into our school systems, into our churches, with the forced science experiment that they're calling a vaccine, election integrity issues, the loss of freedom, our First Amendment rights, our Second Amendment rights, and so many more. They want to silence us. They want to keep us quiet, but we're not going to back down. We're not going to allow that to happen. Guys, here at 511, we're making a point to make a voice, to give a voice to the voiceless, to all of you guys out there watching, and to the guests we bring to you every day. We want to make a point to give the voice back to those who are doing God's work, who are doing the work to protect our freedoms. And if we don't stand up, if we don't take a stand for the things we believe in, the evil that we've seen creep in, slowly at first, and escalate, is going to continue to advance. And we can allow that to happen as Christians, or we can push back and say no more. And we have a moral obligation, a responsibility to our country, to our future, to those who died defending our freedoms, and to our children, to engage both civilly, civically, and politically. We're called to be the light in the darkness. We're called to be a city on a hill for all the world to see, so that they know what we stand for, which is truth and justice. Our founding fathers fought for those freedoms, for those that we hold so dearly. And we can look at what's going on and allow it to continue. As I mentioned yesterday, we're at a moment We have a moment in time right now, coming up in November, where we can sit there and remember where you were when we lost our freedoms, where we lost our freedom of speech, because Kamala, Joe Biden, Tim Walz, they want to take away your First Amendment. They've said it on national television. They made it abundantly clear. They want to silence voices like ours, like yours, like our guest today. They want to keep us hidden and put away in a closet. They want to tell us that our opinions and our words are not valued in today's society, and we know different. Because the truth cannot be hidden. We understand that this world is Satan's dominion. But our Creator is the one who created the world. And He's greater than he who is in the world. So today we're talking to Alex Slack. And I met Alex recently over in Las Vegas, Nevada. She's the founder of Remnant Impact, constitutional coach with Patriot Academy, a faith leader for Turning Point Faith. She's dedicated to waking up Christians and getting them engaged politically and civically. So we're going to be talking today about election integrity, vetting candidates by biblical values, fighting for the truth. Because again, guys, they want to silence us. They want to keep us quiet. And this isn't just a political battle, but it's a spiritual one. We're fighting for our God-given rights. The Constitution says that these are our God-given rights. The Constitution doesn't tell the government what we're allowed to do. The Constitution tells the government what they're allowed to do. And we need to remember that. If we don't step up, we're handing the future over to those who want to destroy our values and remove God from society. But remember, we're not powerless. We can change this. But we need to wake up, stand up, speak out. Because if we don't, who's going to? It's time to become equipped. It's time to take action. And I want to encourage all you guys who are out there watching to share this content, because they want to silence voices just like ours. 511, myself, Alex, and all of you guys. Share this message. Like and subscribe to our content. And guys, we're not going to stop. We're not going to back down. We're in the battle for the soul of our nation, for the future of our children, for our country. And we're going to have a great conversation with Alex today, but before we do, I want to mention a couple of our sponsors. So, first of all, I want to mention what we're doing here at 511, which is we put together some resources for you guys. The election strategy playbook. You guys can get this on our website, 511media.co. We are 511.com. Guys, go check it out. Just go to the webpage and you can download it. We're exposing all the lies of the left, all the lies of the liberal media that are trying to silence our voices. And I'm sharing with you, our team is sharing with you, what you can do to make a difference. What you can do to stop the advances of the enemy. Also want to encourage you to go check out TPUSA, TP Action, Turning Point Action. And if we can drop that link in the comments for all of our viewers and all of our listeners. And guys, if you're listening to this later, after it's live, if you're on Spotify or you're on Apple Podcast, these links will all be in the show notes in the description. But guys, Turning Point Action is doing some great things in our country, some great things in the battleground states, and you guys can get involved. It's really easy to get involved, and they're paying full expenses plus wages for you guys to go and make a difference. They got the largest ground game of any conservative organization that's ever been had in Arizona, Pennsylvania, going door to door, getting out the vote, and I'm going to be there. My family's going to be there. You guys need to be there too. Finally, I want to talk to you guys about Freedom 2.0. Freedom 2.0 is a proud sponsor of 511 Media Group. Thank you, Elizabeth and Cyrus, for all you're doing to fight for our freedoms. They don't just have the best water, frankly, that is available. They also have hydration packs and electrolytes and all the things that you expect from a hydration company, but they're also fighting for your First Amendment rights. They're fighting for our right to have this show broadcasted on the air. I want to encourage you guys to go check them out at freedom20.com. Use code 511 for 15% off. And also want to mention Stand Up Now Apparel. Stand Up Now Apparel, Christian organization. Gerard White, leader of that organization, been on the show with us many times. He's fighting for our Christian values. And we want to support the organizations that are supporting our values, that are supporting our work. Not just here at 511, but all of us collectively. So I want to encourage you guys to go out and support them. StandUpNowApparel.com. You can use code 511 for 10% off. And guys, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. And I want to introduce you to our guest today, Alex Slack. She's raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. She's been actively involved and engaged in the local community, creating awareness of our civic duties and responsibilities through biblical and constitutional lens. She's a founder of Remnant Impact. She's a faith leader for Turning Point Faith. She's a constitutional teacher for Patriot Academy. And she's making a big difference in a battleground state that needs voices like hers and like yours out there making a difference. So, Alex, thanks for being here with us today. So glad to have you on the show. And I'm really excited because we had a great conversation. You did a great presentation when we were over in Las Vegas last week. And I'm really proud of what you're doing, and I want to support that Remnant Impact and all the things you do with as much vigor as we can here at 511.
Well, thank you, Mike. I just want to say thank you for having me on the show. And I'm proud to also be here with 511 right now, being able to spread the awareness of what our biblical duties and our American responsibilities are when it comes to getting involved in politics. So I'm happy to be here as well. Yeah.
Alex, for those out there watching, let's talk about Remnant Impact first, because that's where we first came across each other. And I know you're involved in, again, Turning Point Faith, Patriot Academy. What is it? Coalition of States, is that right?
I'm part of the coalition's teams for Convention of States, which is the article.
I had the words a little bit mixed up, but I was close.
Yeah.
But you're busy. You're doing a lot of stuff. So let's talk about what Remnant Impact is and what you guys are doing out there to make a difference in this election and upcoming, because it doesn't stop, just like we talked about last night. It doesn't stop just because elections are over. In November, the work continues. It just shifts a little bit of the focus. So let's talk about what you're doing.
Yeah. So for Remnant Impact, what our goal is to educate, equip, and engage specifically Christians to be able to go into the battlefield of what politics is. Because unfortunately, if it's not going to be the Christians that get involved, then it's not going to be anybody. Right now, what we're seeing is because of the lack of Christian involvement, because of the lack of godly men and women stepping forward to fight what is essentially evil that has come upon our nation, we have allowed for things to happen, and the consequences of those things that are happening right now really are affecting us on a a big level. It's affecting our kids right now. It's affecting our life right now. It's affecting our rights right now. So there's a lot of different things that are going on. And truly, because we are called to, as Christians, we are the ones that are supposed to be out on the battlefield fighting this fight. And so that's what we're trying to do. I get involved in a lot of different things as far as elections, election integrity, legislation. We get involved in the things that are happening at our public schools right now. And so whatever I'm doing, I'm bringing Christians with me and exposing what is actually happening.
So, and Remnant Impact's 501c4. So you have the ability to talk about whatever you want, unlike some of our friends that are in 501c3s that have to be very careful and walk a fine line. And that's one of the reasons that we're in a for-profit business, because we also, we can do whatever we want. We don't have government agencies and institutions trying to tell us what to do. But I love the work that you're doing, and we've, as Christians, remained quiet for too long, and that's why we're at the point we're at, is because we've just sat there and with this ideology, and I'm not even entirely sure where it came from, but that Christians aren't supposed to be involved civically, and we know that that's very far from reality, very far from the truth, and it's what's led us to the point we're at now, where we're actually having arguments, which is unheard of, really, frankly. Like, it's unfathomable to me that we're having debates over whether or not we should kill babies. I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't see how you can call it anything but that. We're having debates over whether men should be allowed in women's locker rooms. We're having debates over whether or not parents should be notified of these things going on, that kids are transitioning. We're in California, which is we had a conversation last night. You guys are, or what was the kind of conclusion we both came to, that Nevada is naive and ignorant, and California is like malicious?
Pretty much. I mean, the things that are going on, I think all of Nevada, and you know what, that's what happens with evil. Evil is very crafty. They're very sneaky, and Satan himself, he exposes himself as an angel of light and of peace, and that's not true at all. And so for Nevada, we have a lot of room, we have a lot of wiggle room right now to fight what is happening, and we're not. So that, for us, shame on us. For you guys, it has been going on for so long that your wiggle room to fight is a lot less than ours is. I mean, as at a federal level, you still have your constitutional rights to be able to fight, but because the laws have come in and pretty much caved in on you guys have very little room to fight. And so if we don't do that, that's a shame on us. We're praying for you guys in California, because you guys have a much bigger fight ahead of you. But definitely, Nevada is very naive, very naive for nice words.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the things that you guys are involved in, because you were sharing with me some of the lawsuits, and we were talking about that before the show. So I don't know if we can or not, and you can let me know, Alex. Can we share some of the images that you shared with me about the lawsuits and stuff, or is that?
Of course, those are all public information. So
okay,
as long as it's public, you can share it publicly. This right here is. So I, if you don't mind, can we backtrack to a different one, the other one, just so I can lead into this so that you guys understand what's going on. But, in 2021, 2022, in that era right there, we were involved in a lawsuit, and in that lawsuit challenged the state to have the right to be able to go into our central processing center to observe what was actually happening in our elections. And by the grace of God, we won that right. We got favor in that. And so that is one of the things that we do, or one of the things that I do, is I lead the election integrity at the Central Processing Center. So for the state of Nevada, what happened is, you have that ability to vote by machine. You can go into the polling locations and vote by machine. But what ended up happening is that they passed this law where everybody was going to get a mail-in ballot now. And because of that mail-in ballot, we have the ability to go into the Central Processing Center and watch the life of that ballot. And so we've been doing this since 2022. And that last picture of what you had last posted, what happened during legislative session last year is a bill ended up being passed where it basically, yeah. So now we're on to this one. So what this right here is saying is that there's 4 of us that came onto a lawsuit. There's 2 of us up in Reno. This whole thing is spearheaded by Robert Beatles. He's an awesome brother. He's up north and he's fighting that fight. But we have 2 people up north and 2 people down here at the South Valley. And what this is saying is during legislation, there was a bill that got passed that said that essentially what it, romanticized under is that there is protection for election workers against any harassment, intimidation, physical violence, and et cetera. And whoever, committed those acts could be subject to a Class E felony. But the problem with that is that there's no actual definition of what harassment is or what intimidation is. And there's no definition of who that election official is either. And so because there's a lack of definitions in this, that's left up to political interpretation. And so what happens when we go into the Central Processing Center is that you have what is called ambassadors. Now, this is only specific to Southern Nevada because Northern Nevada, they don't have this. They have a completely different system. And so, but down in Southern Nevada, you'll have an ambassador. That ambassador is basically like your babysitter, and they're going to take you from room to room to room. Now, what's interesting about them is they cannot answer any of your questions. You have the right to ask questions per your Bill of Rights as a voter. But if you do have that question, you have to be directed to what would be essentially the election official. And in the case that, you're asking too many questions, or if you're pointing out a discrepancy, if we're pointing out something that violates any NRS codes, that can be considered as harassment or intimidation. And because of that, because of the political interpretation of what this bill is, that can literally subject any of us to having a Class E felony on us. And so that's one of the things that we're fighting. So that's what that lawsuit is. Of course, they want to paint us as, we want to have the right to, harass these election workers and physically harm them. And that's not the case. We're literally just asking for clear definitions of what this is. So this particular court case or this lawsuit is actually sitting in the 8th Circuit right now. So we're challenging it.
Okay, got it. So to make it more clear, essentially what we're doing is calling for a definition. Calling for definitions on what is harassment, because essentially what they're able to do right now as the law stands is if you go in and you ask questions about the election. Now, I think it's important for people to understand this a little bit better. There's some uniqueness to Nevada law, which allows you to go in and actually observe from end to end as your ballot goes through the process, which I don't know if that exists in any other state. Alex, I don't know if you know.
Maybe 1 or 2 other states that do this, but we've had other organizations from other states. Texas Policy Institute reached out to me and was like, hey, can we come in and do like a soft observation during the presidential preference primary? And I was like, yeah, come on down. I'll show you everything that, we've been working with and we've been doing. And, one of the things that he said was that you guys have a very unique opportunity to go into the elections department and actually see what's happening, because in California, you guys don't have that right. With other organizations, they're going out and they're doing poll watching. Well, anything that happens at the polls, it all gets filtered into this one place. And in this one place, this is what we get to observe. And so instead of being subjected to 100 yards outside of, the polling tent, without being able to have your phone or being able to talk to your neighbor, we're able to go inside of the Central Processing Center. You are able to sit down. You are able to ask questions. You are able to sit there and take notes. And so it's totally and completely different. And so, as long as we have this right, and as long as we continue to fight for this right, we're going to continue to at least try to implement some sort of integrity in our elections, because for Nevada, we're ranked dead last when it comes to election integrity. We have no safeguards on our election. How
are you guys ranked behind us?
Right. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what all of California laws are, but I know like some of the things that we have wrong with us is
California laws have basically made election integrity illegal.
well, I know. And you guys just ended up passing like a complete ban on voter ID. We're
Right.
trying really hard to have that voter ID. That's question 7. That's going to be on our ballot this November. So yeah, I have no idea. Our scorecard we were 28 out of 100. It was crazy. So I would reckon probably you guys are maybe second to last.
Well, we're like off the scale.
You're
you're like number 49 out of 49 states, and California's like, we're not even factoring you in because you're so bad.
Yeah.
Bring up that comment, Darius. And guys, who here from Nevada, and who here were not aware of any of these till now? Share. Yes, please share this, expose the truth, share this with your friends and social media platforms. And I don't know if this is someone you know, Alex, or not, but I do think that, let's get the truth out, because, the fact that I almost feel like they designed these laws in a way that they can intentionally, like, basically stop it, and anybody who tries to observe and get involved in the election integrity is prosecuted.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, for the most part, we've seen that even with the bigger guys, with Dr. Frank Douglas or Mike Lindell or Sean Smith. David, they're all going through lawsuits.
Go ahead and bring that up, Darius.
Basically persecuted for exposing what the truth is. And in some cases we've seen different Secretary of States that have actually sat down and listened and took in the information, and they made the appropriate changes to their election system. I know Georgia just took away the voting machines, which is totally awesome. A county in Georgia. Those are the things that we have to continue to fight for, because we are going to get persecuted. We are going to get challenged, being told like, I stand for violence against our elections. Oh, baloney. I'm going to continue to fight for what is fair and what is of integrity. And really, it would be so much better and so much easier if the Christians would be involved, because if it's not going to be the Christians, it's not going to be anybody. It has to be.
Exactly. And Darius, if we can bring up that image. Yeah. So this is maybe you can zoom in on that a little bit. This is the election integrity rankings, and we.
So I'm not sure if you can hear me, but you totally ended up cutting out on my side. Let me see what I've got going on. I'm not sure. Can you hear me? You're silent on this side. Let me see if I can hear you on your mic.
And I'm sharing with you.
You're silent on this side. Let me see if I can hear you on your mic. Okay, so if you're still there, they can't hear you. You're silent on this side. Are you there? So I have people saying they can't hear you, but they can hear me. See if I can hear you on your mic. Okay, so if you're still there, they can't hear you. Hear you on your mic. Okay, so if you're still there, they can't hear. Hear you on your mic. Okay, so if you're still there, they can't hear. That's okay. Mm-mm. Let's see. I don't know if you guys, let me throw up on see what's going on here. I know Mike is still working on that, but if you guys can still hear me, I'll just fill in that dead space. So kind of going back to, what we were talking about as far as, being the 20 or being the like dead last, we don't have those safeguards. And sadly, we ended up beating California. But what was interesting is seeing Hawaii as being actually the dead last. That's not something that I've seen before, but that also totally makes sense. My husband is actually from Hawaii. I've had people reach out to me from Hawaii and just try to figure out how can we get people involved in Hawaii? How can we change? How can we, start this movement? And something that was interesting with Hawaii when I was talking with this young lady, her name is Taylor. She's actually running for assembly on Oahu, is that in the state of Hawaii, they don't have the ability to know what their party affiliation is. So that's something that was really interesting.
Check. Can you hear this? Okay. Give me 1 second.
Okay, so they don't have the ability to know that. So here in the state of Nevada, and I'm sure with other states as well, I'm not completely fluent with other states, but here in the state of Nevada, you can go onto the Secretary of State site and you can check what your voter registration is, what your party affiliation is, where your address is, so that that everything is correct. So we have a little bit and in Hawaii, once you look up your voter registration on the Secretary of State site in Hawaii, it only tells you what your address is and if you're active. That's the only thing. So you have no idea what your party affiliation is. They don't have that. You actually have to go down into the elections department to figure that part out. So that I would totally.
Can you hear me now?
Hawaii would be 50th state. Yes, you're back on.
All right, so we got some interesting technical difficulties here. Take me out in the ears. Alex, you're amazing. Thank you for keeping the show going.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, mute me in my ears because I'm hearing feedback. I don't know if you're hearing me echo or you hear me echo, Alex. And I'm sorry, everybody out there watching. Sometimes this is the joys of having a live show.
Yeah.
So thank you for staying with us, guys, everybody who stayed with us. And Tammy, Vicky, sorry about the issues we've had here. Let's go back into what we were talking about. So I'm having terrible echo. I'm just going to take out my in-ears, and now I won't be able to hear Alex if I do that, right? Okay, here we go. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, and you don't have echo on our side, so that might just be your side thing.
Got it. Okay. Okay, so let's go back into what we were talking about with the election integrity and the whole voter ranking, election integrity rankings, and you were talking about Hawaii. So let's continue that.
Well, I was just telling everybody that it makes sense that Hawaii is dead last because they don't have any transparency when it comes to their voter registration. Here in the state of Nevada, you can go onto the Secretary of State site and you can look at your entire voter registration card as far as what your precinct is, how you're registered, what your address is, and if you're active or not. And in Hawaii, if you check your voter status or registration on their Secretary of State site, it will only tell you if you are active and what your address is. So you don't even know what your party affiliation is. You don't know what it looks like because they literally can just take in your registration and they can put you as whatever they want. So it's actually really interesting how, how Hawaii in general is having a shift going on, and we kind of talked about this yesterday, that the states that have experienced the communism they're the ones that are having the biggest shift of conservatism right now. And so whatever is happening in Hawaii, unfortunately, that is going to be masked to their greatest ability. And one of those ways is going to be through not having transparency on their registration cards.
Okay, so something that we had talked about, or you mentioned during your talk the other night, and you and I discussed when we were on the phone last night, was about the majority voting compact. And for people who don't know what that is, I was watching a lot of the videos on their website, Alex, and it was interesting how they were saying, "Oh, this everything we're going to say about this." They're like, "Oh, that's a myth, and it's not unconstitutional, and all these things." And I'm sure you've seen these videos, but let's talk about that for those who are out there watching still that bared with us through the technical difficulties, and thank you again for bearing with us. But let's talk about what that is, what that means, and the ramifications that's going to have in future elections if we allow that to continue to take hold.
Yeah. So what I do want to clarify too is the difference between like what the popular vote is or the majority vote is and what the compact means. Those are really two different things. And that has only come to light as of recent. So what the popular vote means is that the Electoral College would be obligated to vote for whatever the popular vote is. Here in the state of Nevada, our biggest county is Clark County. So however Clark County, decides that they're going to vote would basically rule the whole entire state, which gives no voice to our smaller counties or even our capital up north in Reno. So however we vote is how
But that's how it exists now, right? With the Electoral College.
Yeah. Well, no. That's not how it exists now. How it exists now is that all the counties have a voice. They have, technically for the state of Nevada, it does work that way because it doesn't matter. We are such a big county. We overrule everything anyways. But the way that we have it now, we still have basically all of Nevada is red. We're all conservative except for Clark County. We're blue.
Right.
And that's
Las Vegas.
Which is Las Vegas. Yeah. And so technically it does work like that, but it's not supposed to work like that. All of the counties, the smaller counties and the smaller cities do get to have a voice. And because their section of the map is red, they will get some sort of points towards the conservative side versus the Democratic side. It just ends up being that the Democratic side ends up having more points than that. So that's how that works. But I'll say for the majority vote, what is going to happen is no other counties are going to end up mattering at all. And it's just going to be the big counties. And for you, that would basically mean LA County is one of your biggest counties. Right. Your voice of, whatever county you're in is going to count for nothing, basically. It'll only be LA County. But the difference between what's going on, that fight for the majority vote versus the majority vote compact. Now, I have to say that there's 17 states that have signed on to this compact. 17 states, which totals 205 electoral votes. And now we have 6 states that are also pending to join this compact, and that sits at 53 electoral votes. And so should all six states, including Nevada with 6 electoral votes, end up joining onto this compact, that's 158 electoral votes. And now you need 270 electoral votes to win a presidential election. So they're like 80% there. Now, the big long-term goal is obviously, to turn America into a democracy when we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. And each of our states are sovereign in and of themselves. And so we have that ability to make rules such as, or make policies, such as the majority vote. Now, what is happening right now is because the Christians have been so, far removed from our elections, is that these things are starting to happen. And we're seeing that there's a big centralized power, and those rights of the states are starting to be taken away and given federally. So there's a lot of dangers in that.
And as that continues to take ground, essentially Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, and really of the 50 largest cities in the U.S., Many of those are in California, which nobody across the country, for the most part, agrees with most of what California has to say, and they don't want to turn the entire country into California. But that's essentially what's about to happen if we don't stop that movement.
Exactly. And again, going back to what the compact is an agreement between all of those states. Those 17 states have all come together. So it's not even really a matter of the big cities or the counties in this regard. What'll happen for Nevada, what'll happen for California is it's not going to matter if all of Nevada decides that we want to unanimously vote for a circle. Our electoral college would be obligated to vote for the square because of the compact that they signed Nevada into. Does that make sense? So
it doesn't, but I understand what you're saying.
Right. So the compact is so much different than just, let's try to get the popular vote. That's going to make the more sense, do away with the electoral college because that doesn't make sense. We're just going to go with the majority vote. No. That's totally different than what's happening with the compact. The compact is 17 states that have come together that said, we're going to vote together for whatever the popular person is.
Got it. So let's talk now about, Alex, what you're doing with Patriot Academy, because I think that this is kind of ties in together to help people further understand the Constitution and the collaboration between Turning Point and Patriot Academy.
Yeah. So, I'm a constitutional coach for Patriot Academy. I started really implementing classes right after legislative session, because what happened during our last legislative session, if you're from Nevada, our legislative session are on odd years. So in about 3 months, we're heading right back in. I saw a lot of bills that were they're horrific. They violated your God-given right to life, your God-given right to defend yourself, your God-given right to parent. They were being super, super sneaky with, implementing sex education bills and the communicable disease bills, and so with all of that to say, I did everything that I could to get the Christians involved, attend the hearings, write your legislators, go onto the Nevada Electronic Legislative Information System and vote on these bills. Because if you guys didn't know, during legislation, that is a voting session. We do get to participate as we the people. We get to participate in the laws that get made and the policies that get made, because ultimately that's what is affecting our life. So when it came down to a lot of these abortion bills, it was really heartbreaking what is happening when it came down to the loss of rights for a lot of parents right now. That was really heartbreaking. So when these bills ended up being passed, even though they had the majority of opposition against them, I was so angry with the Christians because we had so little involvement, especially when we're looking at the city at large and how many churches that we actually have. And we don't realize that as Christians, this is our duty. This is our duty to be involved in these things. I mean, if we look at previous ancient history, it was always the Christians that was leading for change. When babies were being thrown out in the forest because they were girls and they were being left there to die, it was the Christians that came to rescue them. It was the Christians that started the orphanages and the foster cares and the hospitals. And, they were the ones that started protecting the elders and taking care of the elders. And what we're seeing right now is just Christians laying flat and we have nothing. And so I personally took that really personal, and I decided to start, Patriot Academy classes, specifically biblical citizenship. They have an awesome collaboration with Turning Point Faith. I particularly like that collaboration. And so that's the one that I stick with, because it gives great insight, not only to the Christians, but also to the pastors. And I need the pastors to understand that they have a biblical duty and responsibility to lead their sheep to righteousness. That is what we need to be fighting for. And go ahead.
I'm right there with you, Alex. And we have a lot of pastors that are apprehensive for one reason or another of sharing where they stand politically. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And I think that you can still do what you need to do as a pastor and carry the message forward in love, but yet still speak the truth. And I think if we're neglecting to speak the truth, then we're not being loving. So
Well, and to your point, Mike, the things that are happening right now, and when pastors are like, "Oh, I don't want to talk about this politically," or "I can't touch on this, it's too political," or whatever. What you're basically saying is
Or
that
a lot of times too, Alex, they're afraid of losing their 501c3, right? So you can touch
oh,
on
and
that too.
that's baloney. Just, have yourself a little bowl of propaganda every morning. That's baloney. But here's the thing. If you as a pastor cannot talk about the things that are political, then you cannot talk about the things that are biblical. And that is the problem that we're seeing right now with Christians, is that we're not standing up biblically because we don't have pastors, we don't have shepherds to lead us righteously. That is the problem. This is where we're falling flat. We can't say that, out of all the atrocities that America, not even America, just humankind has ever experienced, it has always been the Christians to lead for change. We are right now experiencing a huge atrocity in our nation and world at large, and no Christians are standing up. We are being overtaken by evil, and we're sitting here cowards and fearful. Revelations 21 talks about that, talks about the people who are not going to make it into heaven, talks about the thief and the adulterer and the drunken one, but the very first thing that's listed on there is actually the coward. God will not put up with a coward. He will not. He despises cowards. Why? Because he tells us 365 times in the Bible, do not fear. I will be with you. And if we're going to sit here and be cowards and not face something as administrative as politics, because that's what it is. We're on an administrative battle right now, where all you have to do is click a button, send in an envelope, that has your vote, email your legislators. Like, this is something that is so incredibly simple, and we still can't do that. Our founding fathers would be rolling over in their grave, because this is everything that they had to shed blood for, and we just have to do this via paper and pen and a button. And still we can't do that. So, that was the whole thing. I went out to 4 different churches. 3 different churches. I had 4 different classes. I had over 300 people graduate my classes with biblical citizenship. And of that 300, I had 10 people raise up and run for office. And from those 10 people, I have 4 people that are now going to be on our generals. And I'm confident in them. I'm confident that they hold their biblical values and their constitutional knowledge, because with these classes, how I teach these classes is the information is so relevant and living that we tie in what is happening in our state. We tie in bills that are happening. We tie in current events that are happening, and that becomes real, and people get really inspired by that, to where they are starting to do different things. And so that is definitely one thing. And I would encourage everybody and anybody to, log on to Patriot Academy, find a class that's near you. They have a whole list of them, and definitely get plugged in that way, because we need way more people to be biblically knowledgeable, but also constitutionally knowledgeable, because we are facing times right now that your constitutional rights are being threatened and you don't even know it, and people are so afraid to use their First Amendment that if you don't use it, you lose it. We've said that time and time again, but that's literally where we're at. We can fight this whole entire thing just by using our First Amendment.
Yeah, and you have patriots like Alex here that are standing there, and you're doing so much. It's incredible. And I thought it was fun, your comment last night. And I wasn't sure if you were kidding or if you were serious, but you said you need to do more. But I was like, you're doing so much with all the lawsuits, and with Patriot Academy, and with the Remnant Impact, and I love what you're doing. The Patriot Academy specifically, you are going out and educating people, and I think that's largely where we're failing, because the school systems have become really indoctrination camps. They're pushing all of these woke agendas on the children, LGBTQ, critical race theory. If you're white, you're a bigot, and if you're black, you're a victim. And I have many minority friends. Pick the people group, and we don't come against anybody. God loves everybody, but if we continue to just let this happen, we're going to lose our rights. And Elon Musk said it in the rally. Was it Saturday or Sunday over the weekend? Anyway, in Butler, PA. Like, this could be our last election if we just sit here and watch it happen.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is the first time in all of American history, really, that the party and the candidate has been so completely out in the open, outspoken about socialism and communism that we've never seen. We've never seen candidates or political figures come out and blatantly say that, the only thing standing in the way of democracy is your First Amendment. And we want to take that. We want to take that back. The only thing, that change or is standing in the way of democracy is our Constitution. And it needs to be rewritten. It is outdated. That is what our Constitution is, essentially what's causing so much chaos in our country right now. They say this out loud. They totally say this. Kamala has talked about doing, a no buyback program to compensate our guns. They want to put red flag laws out, so these are not, we get called conspiracy theorists. Oh, that's not going to happen. This is what it says constitutionally, and this is the law. Listen, evil doesn't care about law. There is no bounds. It means nothing. We want to know, on average, per 100 years for other country, per 100 years, on average, how many constitution a country will go through?
How many?
They'll go through 7.5 constitutions in 100 years. Because every time a country gets a new leader, there's new laws, there's new constitution. They want to get rid of this. They want to implement this. And so a new constitution is constantly, being re-implemented. Now, for America, the United States of America, our Constitution is 237 years old. 237 years old. It has lasted the test of time. It has survived 46 presidents, and it's still standing, and it still gives us that right. It is alive and it is well. But sadly, it is like tucked in this like little box in the attic, and nobody knows about it. That is completely sad.
And it was a essentially Christian document written to rule a land of Christian people. And as we lose our faith in this country, people don't understand why some of the rules and some of the laws exist the way they do. And again, the Constitution largely was to protect us from the government, not the other way around. And now they seem to be using it as a weapon to protect the government from the people as they do evil things. Frankly, like just look at what's going on back east with the hurricane. And I've talked about that till I'm blue in the face, and I'm going to continue to talk about it. But, when you mentioned conspiracy theories, and there's people talking about weather manipulation and whether they steered the storm into that path. And I showed you yesterday videos of former CIA Director John Brennan and other senators talking about this. So, I think there's some credence to it. And the fact that they're stealing supplies that are being taken there to help the people, giving them to the illegal immigrants, the money that was supposed to be meant for FEMA for emergency disasters just like this have been removed and given to the illegals. So they essentially are bankrupt at this point. That's why they're trying to give them only $750. That's all they have. And they're going to have to scrounge that up. And as we continue to allow this type of stuff to go on, we're facing a time where we're about to lose everything.
Oh, absolutely. And, again, we have that ability to exercise our First Amendment and be able to speak out about a lot of this stuff because, if we don't talk about it, if we don't speak out about what is happening, then the lies come in. And if you didn't know, there's only 77% of Americans will actually self-censor themselves. People are so afraid to talk about what is happening. People are so afraid to sit there and, could that actually be true? Or is that a conspiracy? No, like literally those things that are conspiracies have all come true. People are coming out and they're talking about it. The whistleblowers, they are digging up evidence. So when you talk about, the hurricane, was it manufactured? Absolutely it was. In fact, they have a patent for that manufactured hurricane. There's literally a patent number on how they direct hurricanes, which is totally insane. But if you bring that to the surface and we tell people about it, then it doesn't become you're crazy, because how many people are being called crazy, but it is actually true, And so those are the things that we need to be able to do. We need to be able to do our research, and we need to be able to talk about these things. Only 16% of people in America feel that they are free to talk about things. And that is such a low number, but I want to bring it back to, it has to be the Christians. And what we're seeing right now is that the biblical worldview in America right now has dropped so significantly. We are sitting at a 4%. 4% of America has a biblical worldview. And when we look at that number, then everything else makes sense. The decay that's happening in our nation, the corruption that's happening, why there's 77% of Americans that don't talk about anything, that we hide under a rock, that we don't want to get involved. We don't want to know. I had this conversation with somebody yesterday, and she has no source of social media. She's like, I can't know. My heart can't handle it. I cannot know. And it's like, we need to know, not even just as Christians, we're going to put Christianity aside for a minute, but as Americans, we need to know what is happening, or you are going to be sideswiped and you're not even going to know what to do should you survive. That's exactly what just happened in all this, the hurricane pathway. People were not prepared for what was happening. They didn't have the food. They didn't have the water. They didn't have the time to leave. We need to be able to be aware of what is happening. Even if it sounds like a conspiracy theory, it's coming true. Everything is literally coming true within 6 months.
I think the reality is, Alex, because I had this conversation with a friend just the other night. I think that most Americans don't want to believe that their government is this evil. Because my friend was saying, well, why would they spend all this money to do? I don't know. I don't believe that. We know that this is Satan's dominion, but it's people like you and I and many of the others that we associate ourselves with that. And I'm glad you brought up earlier about the Bible. And the first thing was talking about the coward not inheriting the kingdom of God. I think it's people like you and I. And if you look at Jesus, he could be included in this as well. We have a rebellious nature. And I think that's the American spirit also, because if you look at how America was founded, it was based on essentially a rebellion. And it's those of us who aren't afraid to stand up and be somewhat rebellious while still existing under the authority of Christ that will stop this erosion of our freedoms and of our values.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we have to be the ones doing it to be able to do it. And I'll also argue this too, is that where we're at as a nation in America, we are a nation that needs missionaries.
Yes. In our own country.
In our own country. That is a nation that was founded on biblical principles and was founded by God, inspired by the Holy Spirit, is now a nation that needs missionaries to come in, because the only name that they know of Jesus Christ is a curse word. Is a curse word.
Yeah.
They do not know what the gospel is. And the only gospel that they do know is the prosperity gospel. And God has a plan and a purpose for you, and you're going to live happily ever after. The gospel of pick up your cross and follow me is not being preached. That is our duty. That is what God has called us to, is to pick up our cross. Yeah, it's uncomfortable getting involved in politics. This was not my first choice. I don't like public speaking. In fact, when you saw me on Thursday, I was ready to throw up getting up on stage.
Well, you did a phenomenal job.
But that's by God, because all God has called me to do is just to step forward, and He's going to meet me there. And that's same true for anybody else. If we walk in the obedience, then not only do we get to see God do miracles, we get that firsthand experience of Him doing miracles because we were obedient, but He'll also meet us to the point where we just become the vessel and He becomes the voice.
So, Alex, if people are watching and they want to get involved with what you're doing with Remnant Impact or Patriot Academy, biblical citizenship classes, any of those things, what would you direct them to do?
If you want to be, I would recommend everybody, whether you're taking my class or you do it online, go to patriotacademy.com. They have, a find a class and find a class near you. You get plugged in that way, because the information is completely invaluable. And we need more Americans to know the history of our country, to know what our rights are, so that we know how to defend our rights. So that's one. If you want to get involved with Remnant Impact, I would encourage you can go to remnantimpact.org. You can email me at alex@remnantimpact.org, or you can follow us on Instagram and kind of see where we're going, what we're doing in the different things that way.
Yeah, and I might actually have a conversation with you, Alex, about holding some of those classes here as well in our studio or whatever, because I think it is a great thing and it's important. And I love the partnership with TP Faith as well.
Yes, absolutely. I'm all game for that. We can definitely plan that.
Cool. Awesome. So, Alex, thank you for bearing with me through our technical difficulties. You've been amazing. Thank you guys for watching and bearing with us as well. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you guys for being here. Have a great day. God bless.
Thank you, guys.